Hello friends, this is Ganesh. Hope you're doing great. In this video, we're going to see some basics about SAP integration process. The people who are currently working in a project, SAP integration project, or communicating with two different systems, probably SAP to SAP or SAP to non-SAP. This is not for yours because you already know all the basics, how we can handle, how we can communicate between two different systems. And this video is for the people who are in the beginning stage of SAP or ABAP, and they might be in a development and support project. There may be a chance of getting a part of any integration project in future. So this is very basics for those people. Like technically, what are the things are available, how we can able to connect before make a communication, a few things, few parameters to decide what kind of communication we have to make it. So that level this video is going to be. So it's just on this base level of understanding of SAP integration process. Okay, let's get into the slides. And mostly this is going to be slide level video because I am not going to show anything more technical with the help of a system. Okay, so if you take the SAP integration, so mostly we have very initial stage would be SAP to SAP. I have, or the business has two SAP or more than one SAP systems, SAP 1, SAP 2, and some scenarios, few business data to be synchronized between both systems. So if I create material in SAP A, that needs to be updated in SAP B as well, probably with a different number sequence, but the data to be maintained properly in both the systems. Okay, if that is the scenario, we need to communicate each other between the SAP A and SAP B, and then we can exchange the data. So that may be a data to be updated, or it may be created new things, whatever it is, some communication to be happened to make the data available in both the systems. Okay, and this is very basic about the communication or the integration between two same SAP systems, two systems like SAP and SAP system is not a non-SAP system. But apart from that, we have different scenarios. Probably these are the ones which I shared here with my SAP journey, and you might have a different experience as well. And if you take one by one, data through file. So I have systems, non-SAP systems, but the data to be synchronized between that system and SAP, and their data medium is file. So they usually transfer the data through a file that needs to be retrieved by an ABAP program, and that after the retrieve the data based on the business needs, maybe we can create it or we can store it in a custom or a standard table. So everything depends on the business needs. Okay, and every communication is not only data through file, everything, there are certain things are common. Once you receive the data, do you need to validate it? First thing, yes. If any validation fails, how you communicate back to the system, the source system, because the data is received from a source system. And once it is success, once everything is validation is success, and the data is fine to update or saved in a database table or create through a BAPI. Once everything is fine, what is your way of communication back to the source system? Whether it is how you communicate your message, success message, information message, error message, those things. And do you want to communicate along with the messages, along with any informations as well? So if you create a purchase order, after you receive the data, I created a purchase order in my SAP system. I send back a message saying that success message, and it's got created along with the production order number. Okay, so that is the next level. So these are common factors. So whatever information or whatever channel you are making the communication, so these are very basic things. I have a slide, what are things to be considered. So these are very basics in the SAP integration process. Okay, so this is one way of one design. So the next design would be the vendor portal. So vendor portal is like they have a portal mostly they will connect with SAP with most of the data. Like they send all the information to create a purchase order. That purchase order creation to be happen in SAP only. So the vendor have a website, they will enter all the information, they click save or submit button, then the communication is going to happen with SAP and validations. These are basic things, and then process happens, create a purchase order and send back the purchase order number to the vendor portal as well. Okay, so this is another way of integration is happening mostly day to day, like everyday business needs, like through a vendor portal or a portal to a SAP. Okay, and mostly this needs a live data. Sometimes maybe a creation, or I need a data to show to my user. Okay, getting the data from SAP and show to a user through my portal. So that way also this will happen. And the another system could be a tax calculate, not only to create like SAP before creating any documents like purchase order, sales order, my tax to be calculated through a different entity. So not in SAP. It depends on the business. So you cannot say, or you cannot follow the same thing with the different customers. Depends on their business design. They have to calculate the tax or any calculations. It may happen in SAP or outside of SAP also. If that is a scenario, sometimes what happens is you may use a SAP system, or maybe the SAP partners, they may create a product on the SAP platform. So what they can do is they can do configurations between SAP and the tax calculation system. So you can do a configurations and send the communication and get the calculate done from the other systems or another tax calculation system, and send the final results to SAP. So that way also you are able to make it. So either a file or as a live through a vendor portal, or through a configuration also you can enable the communication between SAP to non-SAP or SAP to SAP systems. And another product system. So sometimes few systems are very clear, the developers are very clear about the communication, how you're going to communicate with the SAP. So I have a communication model called IDOC. So I'm good with that. I'm going to send the information to IDOC. I want to receive the information back from SAP through IDOC only. So sometimes they're very clear about the communication channel. If that is a scenario, you have to make the design happen between SAP to non-SAP or SAP to SAP system with the help of IDOC structure as well. Okay, and currently many things are happening through UI. So if it is a UI, obviously after HANA evolved, so we have more in work in the UI level. If that is the case, we have a layer called OData service. So we can have OData service, and then from the OData service, the options are yours. You can have a select, or you can have a function module, or a RFC function module, or a CDS views, whatever it is. You can get the data and send back to the UI as well. Okay. So these are very common designs which is around the SAP system. So depends on your business circle. You can have a lot of systems which around SAP, or you can very few systems which are around SAP. Very rarely you can have only SAP system. You don't have get a chance with integration as well. Okay, so these are little ideas probably from my SAP journey, and we'll see one by one little more technical details of each one. So if you take SAP to SAP, so very basic things like create a RFC connection between these two systems, and make a function module, remote enable function module. So that will take care of everything. That can able to receive the information from you, and that will call internally other BAPI if it is required, or a BDC, whatever defines. That will create a document and send back the information along with the success message, or a message. It may be a success, error, or whatever it is. Or if you have the validations, yes, you have to send back the information back to your SAP 1 to SAP 2 systems. Yes, everything can happen through RFC function module. Very, very simple way of communication we can able to make it. Always, if there is a communication to be happening between two different systems, probably from SAP to SAP or SAP to non-SAP, definitely we need a basis, security, and then administrative person from the non-SAP system as well. So those will take care by those kind of a team. Once the communication is established, as a developer, we have to make, or we have to create an object which is compatible to communicate with those RFC connections. Okay. And the next idea would be data through file. So if it is a file, then we need a place to just store the file. It could be a common place, but it would be a secured place. But like not everyone can be able to access that. Okay. So these kind of basic administrative or the system level securities are taken care by the administrative or basic teams or security team, and they may have create the user, only those user can able to access the file from the specific folder. So the file could be you have a FTP folder, like a network folder, or some user, some non-SAP user have access for with few SAP systems. Depends on the business requirement, and they are able to make it, or they're able to keep the file in the AL11. Okay, so if that is the case, what happened, the file to be read from SAP program, either from the FTP or from the AL11 path, then they can just make the things happening in SAP and send the information back to the source system. And most of this kind of file process, we may have to create additional files, probably the error message or a success message. We have to create it, and maybe in the same folder or in the different folder, but the file names are very important here. Normally we used to create under success, under message, what is the timestamp, date, and everything. Archive, we already discussed. Once the file is read, better we have to remove it from the folder or we have to archive it. Okay, so these are few processes to be considered on this kind of a integration design. So the next one is vendor portal. So vendor portal and SAP system communication is mostly for live data. I want to know what is the purchase order status. I want to know how the materials are getting designed. So these are mostly retrieved from SAP to the portal level. So vendor portal is one of the examples. So in generic portal, I can say. Okay, so it may need a data. Sometimes they may request to create a purchase order or any document in SAP, and they are expecting that document number back to the portal side also. Okay, so in that case, this is a two-way communication. So they have to send the message, and you have to process the data, and it includes the validation, all the validations also. Once the data is pure, it's fine for SAP. For then it'll create a purchase order and send back the purchase order informations. Okay, so and for to this, we need an RFC connection. Obviously, we need a connection between two systems, and we can create a remote enable function module, or serious view entity also can be utilized, or I can say it can be accessed by the portal team directly, and they will get the data. So mostly serious level we prefer, or we use for a read data level. Okay, and the series view entity can be called through a different language. How they are calling the function model, same way they are able to call the series view entity and read the data as well. Okay, so this is for about the portal. Any portal, it needs to be communicate with SAP integration. Yes, and if it's a live data, we call it as synchronous process. So whenever there is an information or whenever there is an error, immediately it will reflect to the portal level side instead of file. So if there is any error, what happens is we have to create a file, and the person needs to come, and we have to notify the person there is an error in your file. Then they will read it. It may take some time, but here what happens is it's an immediate response. If they send the information the material is wrong, we can send back the information saying that the material is wrong. So once they call the RFC function model, we have a return parameter. It mentions clearly everything. This is a message. This material is not created in SAP, so please check it from your end. Okay, so that is little useful, or little that makes some little advantage compared to the previous design. And the next one is the UI, and we are in a HANA environment. So we have this also needs a data for a create, or it like I can say CRUD operations, right? So create, update, delete, whatever required in any design that can be possible. And if it is a UI, we have a OData service as a middleware. Excuse me. And from there you can have a function model or CDZ or normal ABAP code that reach your database table, or it reach your SAP system, and it can create whatever you want. And in this additional point is if you have a different gateway server. So because every HANA system or every ECC, you have a gateway service. But if you create a gateway system in a different gateway, sorry, if you create an OData service in a different gateway server, then you need a RFC connection between you, the gateway server, and the backend system, ECC or HANA. Okay, that is required. Otherwise, it's not, it doesn't require for that. And security roles and authorizations are in place once you start creating OData. So that also to be enabled with the help of your basis or security team. Okay. So the next one is tax calculate. As I mentioned, this may be another SAP product or a partner product. So if that is the case, they may have a configuration. They enable a configuration in SAP. So if you want to communicate within that particular product, yes, you can just enable the configuration. So based on that, that will do a calculation, that will do a handshake between these two systems and receive the calculated value before create any document in SAP side. Okay, so in that is the case, you have to identify like how the configuration to be make to do a handshake between these two systems, and how to call explicitly through a standard function model as well. Okay, so the configurations and communication, that handshake between systems, everything taken care by the separate team, not for ABAP developers, but you should aware of it. So aware which transaction is used to create a configuration. At least you should know the transaction to see how the configurations are already built to make a communication between these two systems. So that will be a little easy to understand the process bit well. And another system product, then they mention very clearly, we are going to communicate with iDocs. Yes, you can go ahead with an iDoc, and if you have a SAP XI or SAP PI, and you can make use of it, that middleware, and the communication might happen from your SAP to PI, PI to your non-SAP system. Okay, that way the communication is pretty simple and easy compared to the previous designs. So these are to be considered. Any integration process, these are to be considered. Existing license and the new license cost. Okay, so these are, I can say it's a higher level, not in the developer level. Maybe your team lead or a manager, they will just take care of this. But this is also part of parameter. These are the parameters which decides what kind of integration may happen. Okay, so one is business saying, so I have because every license it requires cost, right? So it may be simple, or sometimes it may be very higher one. So if they have an existing license, businesses try to utilize that existing one to make this integration make success, and they may have maybe down the road after 2 years, 3 years, we may think about a new license. Okay, so if the proposal needs a license, new license, then the cost comes in the picture. But the proposal, if you propose something with the existing license, then business is happy to do that. And what are the available middleware currently available in your business? That also you have to explore it. So if they have a SAP PI already in place, you can make use of it. Suppose they don't have a PI at all, then you have to think about it. What are the next step we can able to make it? Because if they want to get a PI again, they have to just pay for it. Instead, they have another middleware which supports the same kind of integrations. Then you can try about it. Okay, and about the capability and performance as well. So how the capability of the middleware and how frequent the communication happens, that is also in place, right? So everything to be considered before you take a decision. Okay, this is a design for SAP integration process, and volume of data plays a major role. So how much data you are transferring. Maybe you can transfer a single data, one purchase order is required, maybe one purchase order is multiple items, 100 items, 200 items. So it depends on how the business needs, then you have to decide about the integration. So if the large volumes are to be transferred between two different systems, then you can decide, okay, this is not right for the live. Maybe we can think about the batch, right? Every night we can send the information, and I have to transfer almost like 100 IDOCs or 150 IDOCs per day between two systems, then do it in the batch jobs instead of do a live system. Okay, so that way the volume of data is very important to make a decision about which design you have to propose about the integration. And exception handling plays also a major role because the data comes and it stops in the middle. So what is the next step? Because the source system assign or the source system's expectation is we send the data and it might create it, but if it reaches the target system, SAP system, it not created it, then what is the next step? Okay, you have to revert it back. It may be fail in the middle, right? So it may be fail in the middle, or it not at all created it. So anyway, we have the source should aware and source and target should aware something is happening here. What is the next step? Okay, so some exception handlings are to be in place before any document creations begins in SAP side. So we call it as validation of the data. So make sure all the data, because those are data coming from the source system, it may be a mistake. They may have a different materials that is not at all available in SAP side. So material, the master level, the data are not available. So that also make sure before you begin any SAP process. So validation is very important. The first level of validation before begins any data creation, and at the time of data creation it fails, what happens? Okay, so then how you're communicating back to the source system and what's the next step. So these also to be in place and while you just work on any SAP integration project. And the log and maintenance requirements, that is also very important. How long you're going to keep the logs available or you're going to maintain it. Okay, so every day I have 1,000 Zydocs are coming. It's not necessary to make the log for 1,000, means everyday log for at least for 1 year, maybe a year, or after 2 years, yes, we can delete those logs as well, right? So how you're going to make the logs and how you're going to do the maintenance requirement also. Most of the companies prefer iDocs or because you can able to recreate it even if it is fails. Okay, you can able to recreate it. If you compare the same with the file, if you send a file, there is some issues, so then they have to send the, like, out of 100, 10 records or errored out, they will send the 10 records back to you. Then source people, they have to recreate the file. Instead of 100, they have to create only with the 10. So there are additional works or involved if you select the design, the integration design. If it is an iDoc, you have it's easy to track it. You can able to re-implement, means re-trigger iDoc even from the source system. If required, you can recreate it from the target system also. Okay, so it depends on the needs. You have to make sure how the log and maintenance is going to be happen in this entire SAP integration design. So these are the points to be considered as a very basics about the SAP integration process, or if you involve in SAP integration projects. Okay, so once you get involved, automatically once you start development, you learn a lot, but this is very basics ones. Okay, so hope this might be very useful to understand about the integration process. If you have any questions, please let me know. And thank you so much for your time. If I find, or if you need anything very specific, if time permits, I can make a video for that one as well. Okay, thank you, and see you in the next video. Bye.